Is there a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved.
Second.
Motion second, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Minutes approved. Okay, Virgil.
Oh, tricky.
Oh, okay, you sure did. Bryce.
We're gonna have two for y'all tonight. They're both voluntary. Nobody should be here to contest in any way, so should be.
What you got?
We got two tonight. They're gonna be both voluntary. The first one's gonna be 504 33rd Avenue.
Yeah. It's in my district.
All of them are.
Well, that house has a lot of
I've lived in
history.
worse.
Why are they tearing that house down?
The house had a hole in the roof and had a lot of things happen within the home. And I've talked to the homeowner, and they're voluntarily, letting us tear it down. And they want to keep that lot. It's a nice lot on the corner lot. Yeah.
It's nice when people work with you, isn't it?
It's good when people work with you, and you know
They wanted to sell it for commercial or something later or something?
I don't know what they want to do with it. That's all.
But it's zoned, what is it zoned? Okay, all right, next.
And the other one's gonna be 2217 Foster's Ferry Road.
Yeah.
Okay.
About to lose a roof.
It's about to cave in.
Foster
Cross
Ferry.
Ferry.
Where is that on Foster Ferry? Up the street from me.
Ooh, yeah, no, that,
Both of these are voluntary?
Yes, sir.
Right, that's right.
all right, any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, Antonius.
All right, good afternoon, Councilor Mayor. I only have one applicant tonight. It's Downtown Entertainment LLC. They're applying for special retail less than 7 days at the Phi Gam Parents Weekend, located at 976 University Boulevard.
What's the 28th? Five game
That's
parent weekend
it's actually
28th?
February 8th. So that's how they license it, 2/8.
Oh.
Yes, sir.
Okay. All right, thank you. Mayor Maddox.
Yes, sir. I'll have to leave later on this afternoon, so I may miss parts of different committee meetings, so I apologize for that, but certainly it's an important meeting, and I emailed you about that earlier.
Yeah.
The other thing is we have 3 items for executive session, and so with that probably taking up the majority of the time, I'll just leave it at that and get on with the council.
Okay, thank you. Brandy?
All I have today is a couple of quick reminders. It is election season, so that means absentee voting has started. Absentee voting, regular absentee voting will take place here at City Hall in my office Monday through Friday, 8 to 4:30. We'll have emergency absentee voting that will start on February 28th through March 3rd. There's a different set of requirements for emergency absentee voting, so I would highly encourage anyone who's thinking about voting absentee to go ahead and get it done as soon as possible.
Can I vote today for Mayor Maddox?
You can do whatever you'd like.
Okay. I will be in there and casting my vote for you, Mayor.
Wise decision.
Yes, sir.
You get one vote anyway.
That's right. I'm still working on my mom.
That reminded me, the last time Carly was here, the last election, I had to bring my mother to show that the rules were for everybody had to bring my mother down here in person to turn her absentee ballot back in. I forgot to look on and see who she voted for. I think she voted for me and you.
Let's just say she did.
I'm sure she did. Okay, Brendan
Sir.
and Liz, or just Brendan?
Sorry, I was trying to jump in line, Brent.
You can go ahead, Scott. We've got much longer items. Council, good afternoon.
Afternoon.
You will see with you, the team has put together a nice handy reference guide, good reading material in here, right? So first section is a summary of the applications that we put together, kind of a quick review. Full applications are tabbed in the back. Your friend will be this summary sheet that's included at the very beginning. It has the applications in the order in which they were submitted. It has the dollar amounts, the district, the DBA name, I think of what the actual business name is included. There's one section you need to be mindful of at the bottom here. If they are color coded, that means there's more than one application. If you're going to grant a property owner, not applicant, but a property owner, more than two, council would have to elect to essentially waive that requirement to limit it to 2 or less. So we're just calling out which applications have multiple spots. Make sense? Because that decision, depending on how you do it, could drop 4 or 5 applications. Questions on that? Quick item, if you have it in the book, they are eligible as of now. You may see some items in there that people have wanted to deduct things or change something in the process. We're not allowing additions, but if somebody wanted to deduct something from their application, they would send Liz an email and include that.
That's included in the package.
You may have between today and February 18th community development meeting, you could have people withdraw. So that just always know that number is going to be a little fluid, and we'll keep you up to date as that happens. If you have individual questions about the applications, Liz or myself can most likely answer them. If they're in the book, the activities are eligible. It's up to council to kind of determine the merit, right? So what you're looking at is all eligible. It's just which ones do you think would be best? 25,000. Yes, sir. Mr. Fail?
I was just wondering, what's the total request, the total amount of money? Is it on the-
623. That's on your cheat
What's
sheet.
the
Okay.
total amount of dollars available?
300.
3.
300.
Oh, I see.
And
With a max
so,
of 25 per application.
and they're listed in the order received. Is there
Yes,
a
sir.
staff recommendation?
Staff does not have a recommendation.
So 7 people are gonna mud wrestle with 34 applications to come up with which 300,000? That sounds unwieldy to me.
It's very similar. This functions as an incentive process. It concurs with 772, so it's not a grant, it's not agency funding, so it functions more as a true advertising for an incentive,
Would this be
which
like,
defers back over to council.
would this be like, just for example, like resurfacing, if they don't make it this year, will they stay on the list, or if we continue to do it next year?
But this was a one-time shot of money, remember? Right, this was,
There's
this
not
was
an
money
additional
that came
budgeted
back.
amount.
Say again?
There's, to your point, there's not an additional budgeted amount. If you were to allot 300 and there's 250, I'm making that number up, remaining, those applications would just not be funded.
Some of them I've looked on here, just to be honest, I don't see.
And that's
I don't
a
see
part of
where-
the intent. We would guide the applicants, right, of what they need to submit, but ultimately it's up to them and their narrative to describe their requests, give estimates, meet with the process. Mr. Bobbitt's outlined for us, which has been very helpful. Do want to make a quick note, a copy of the applications, both physical and digital, are available in the city clerk's office in case anybody would like to review them for the public comments or to make copies. Secondary item, applicants are not required to be here unless y'all have follow-up questions. So I'd imagine you will have some here. I would imagine for the most part you will probably not.
So, remind me again what the process is of award? The process of awarding this.
So the 18th, the council would meet. I would imagine there's a handful of you that would have your recommendations. We can sit and total that up. Once it leaves committee, it would function just like a incentive recommendation that would then have to be advertised, development agreement, parameters put in place, and then there would be a reimbursement back. So they would have to do the work and then submit those receipts back over, and we would reimburse them back.
Is there a timeline on here?
But we've gotta, as a group, vote and approve which ones we would recommend.
Yeah, the CD committee would recommend to full council.
The CD committee's gonna recommend to us what to take from this list and fund.
We would, I mean, depending, and this is where the rules of procedure part for council would make a difference. depending on how you interpret it, on the multiple application ones, you might be able to get this done in the February 18th committee meeting, because you may have a 15 to 20% drop in applications, right, depending on if you elect to trigger that box or not. If you do, that will reduce the overall number of applications. If you choose to just move forward with it, depending on how that goes, we would then roll to the next meeting in March, or yeah, most likely in March.
I know, I remember when we first started, we didn't have, in District 1 now, we have 11 applicants. I think we started off with how many, like 4 or 5? Originally, yeah. That number has grown.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
it was
grown.
strong applications all the way up until the end. So
Yeah.
December 20th was the last day application.
Gotcha, gotcha.
And I think, Counselor Busby, to your point, how do you kind of sift through it? The program stated intent is there, right? And so I think from a council perspective, not every district is represented. I think that may be, if I take one piece of property, there may be, is it an area in which you want some storefronts improved? Some may consider if you do two next to each other that could have a more greater overall impact, right? So I think when you kind of look through them and kind of vet them out, some of them will pop up a little bit more quickly for improvements in geographic areas for decision making. And also too, just because they ask for $25,000 does not mean they have to be awarded that full amount. That's the other factor in that as well.
So did all of them do like, this one I just opened up, this is the way it is, and that's the way
They are
it would
gonna
look
be
like?
different.
It ranges.
It ranges. Some have architectural items, some do
That-
not.
That's helpful.
That's extremely helpful. Yeah.
Some applications are stronger than others.
Yeah.
And the-
Definitely.
I suggest we each of us make a list of our 300,000 we want,
Okay.
and then meld those together.
Okay.
Because, and I say that, again, if 7 people are gonna be voting not only on 34 different choices, but within each of those 34 different choices, you have the option of changing amounts too, that's gonna be a very unwieldy process. Brendan, I hear if, certainly the prioritization by geography, screening and sifting will help somewhat.
Yep.
But it's still, that's an unwieldy process, and we're gonna have to put as much thought into how to do it so that $300,000 doesn't ball down into consuming council and committees for
Yeah.
weeks. I mean, it's 300 grand.
I think you can, if you start going through some of these can be eliminated like quick.
And I think, as Ms. Benda noted, some applications are stronger than others. Some will provide you much more information, much more cost estimates, much tighter, and that's why you'll see what they submit in the applications. Those tabs, if you'll look on this section here, Counselor, that will match you back up with their application.
Yeah.
So that way, if you want a quick glance as to what they submitted, you can do that.
So if I wanna see 501 Queen City Avenue, that's number 11.
Should hit in your packet, number 11. The first part of the packet's kind of a quick summary.
Brendan.
Yes, sir.
Or Liz, did we ever, I think you mentioned something in the beginning, I don't remember, did we ever have a discussion about, let's say for this year, like one owner needs to bring us their best project if they have, because you're saying here that some of them have got multiple projects, so we basically say, bring us one project. If I had 4 projects on here, for example, if I was building whatever, I need to bring my best project. If you just have one project per owner is the max you can do, what does that cut this down by? And then instead of, so we don't have to, maybe you could take a pro rata amount or something if you don't get rid of something, but just try to make it simple. Because, I mean, we'll be voting on this next fall.
I think
Hold on.
I'm going to echo Counselor Busby's point. The way it's been set up and advertised from a public process standpoint and in a committee discussion is that I think to Counselor Busby's point, if you elect to pick 7 applications and you have overlap over 5, you're going to have 5 that are going to be able to move fairly quickly. And then you kind of just melt the next one and just moves through fairly seamless. I think he makes a good point, and we've structured it in a way to give the council and applicant a lot of flexibility while also still meeting the Open Public Meetings Act. So I think we'll be able to get there. Might be a little clunky, Counselor, depending on the final number. But I will say that, you can hit a decent percentage depending if you only choose to entertain one application. That's why I'm making that note.
One application per owner. Right, per owner. is what-
It said two.
You
max.
can do up to
There's
two.
property owner and there's business owner.
Right.
Okay.
But now,
highlighted the
we did property owner, not business owner. This is property owner.
Property owner.
So even just at a quick scan, let's see, if you were only allowed to one apiece, that'd be 4, and that means you would knock off 1, 2, 4, 6, 5 to 6. So depending on how you interpret that rule, you could drop 20% like that on application.
No, I just have nightmare of this being,
I agree.
agency funding is 45 different choices spread out over $14 million. I promise you the fur fight will be just as big, spread out over 300, and 34. It's just, that's my concern. But until I come up with a better idea, I'll be quiet for
It
now.
would be good for us to try to approve as many of these as we can, of course, too, if they're legitimate. We feel like they're legitimate requests.
And I would say for the ownership component, and Liz double check me on this because I'm scanning quickly on our districts, I think the only ones that have what I call the double up more than one applications are from District 1 and District 4. So it'd be Councilor Busby and Councilor Wilson. So y'all's would really be the ones that drive that discussion of, are you talking about 34 or are you talking about 27 or 28 applications?
I'm looking at 12 in my district, Mr. Bud.
So that's kind of that. But
I have
the
zero
reason-
in mind.
I don't have any.
Well, let's just vote for District 24. They're not here. Let's
We don't need to be paid for parking.
We are, Ms. Benda and I are confident that the council members will be able to execute and
We
make
can
good
start off as
decisions
the
in this
sign,
process.
facade. So we want to keep it that, the
Yeah.
original.
There's also some really small
We are
ones
letting the
that
applicants
just
know
realize
the
it's not
18th
my
will be the
district.
start of the review process. They're not required to come, but they've been following up each week as they should, so we're informing them. It will be a very traditional process, much like a 772 as we exit. Approval letters, development agreements, process that we'll track internally. The only thing I would mention to you, and I think of Mr. Busby and Mr. Wilson in this scenario, is if you see one on there where you have adjacent properties, right? That would be the one that maybe if you're looking at two together, may have some benefit. I believe Mr. Carpenter has some in your district, where they are next to each other. Is that merit to improve both at the same time or only do one or none? That's how I would weigh the multiple applications, person from a geography standpoint. But I think as noted, the applications, Council President Tyner touched on, some are stronger than others.
Yeah.
So that may inform some decision making as well. And also think about the areas, business types, intent, etc. So.
So the next would be to, like,
And that fur fight's
said-
taking place in community development.
February
Right.
18th,
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
that's
Two
that's
two
me,
weeks for a
Wilson,
full book
Cassius.
report.
Study up.
But I like what you said.
I swear, we're gonna have to each take a matrix and put our top 300 grand and see where they
Yeah.
meld, and that's,
That's a good idea.
And Counselor, it's been advertised and done in that mechanism to where if you do choose to do that, we are meeting all requirements, both for council, public comment, and public records. So that process works well.
Thank y'all. It's a lot of
Thank you.
work.
And if you have
That's
follow-up
amazing
questions
amount of
about
work.
specific applications, let us know.
And we know who did most of it, so
Liz did
thank
most
you.
of
All right.
Oh,
Scott.
yeah.
Good afternoon, council. I'm sorry I was trying to jump the gun earlier.
No problem.
We can give you the facade program, Scott.
I am at, looks like about midway down on page 2. We're on page 14. You'll be authorizing the mayor to execute a reimbursable agreement with the Federal Aviation Administration to provide design support for relocating federal equipment related to runway 422 extension project. This is a total of $95,046.37. We came to you in projects on the 28th. On page 15, you'll be authorizing minor public works contract with Robertson and Sons Construction Services. This is a total of $45,000 and comes to you came to you on projects on the 28th. On page 16, you'll be authorizing a professional services agreement with McGiffert Associates LLC for professional engineering and related services for the Cypress Creek Drainage Improvements Phase 8 project. This is a total of $153,145. This came to you on projects on the 28th. On page 17, you'll be authorizing a minor public works contract with Tent World. This is a total of $2,950 and came to you in projects on the 28th. On page 18, you'll be authorizing a minor public works contract with Straight Line Fence LLC. This is a total of $5,590 and again came to you in projects on the 28th. On page 1920, you'll be authorizing amendment number 1 to the subrecipient funding contract with Salvation Army and authorizing the mayor to execute an amended subrecipient funding contract under the city's 2023 Emergency Solutions Grant Program. Again, that came to you in projects on the 28th. On page 21, you'll be authorizing a disbursement from District 5 improvement funds for Christmas decor. There's a total of $13,000 and came to you in finance on the 28th. On page 22, you'll be authorizing a disbursement from District 7 improvement funds for the Mount Pilgrim Community Outreach Center. This is a total of $1,500. This is doubled up and will be heard on finance today. On page 23, you'll be authorizing a disbursement from District 7 improvement funds for the Ivy Foundation. This is a total of $2,500 and again is doubled up and will be heard in finance today. On page 24, you'll be authorizing renewal and payment of premium for certain insurance coverage. This is a total not to exceed $1,939,433. This was requested by my office. I know there are some questions on this. If you don't mind, Mr. Busby, I'll finish the briefing and then we can go over that in more detail. On page 25, you'll be authorizing a renewal agreement of the pre-event contract with Crowder Golf LLC for disaster recovery assistance and debris removal. This was on projects on the 28th. On page 26, you will be temporarily expanding the downtown entertainment district hours for Saturday, March the 29th, 2025. This came to you in public safety on the 28th. On page 27, you'll be authorizing adoption of disadvantaged enterprise program compliant with 49 Code of Federal Regulations Part 26 for the Tuscaloosa National Airport. This was presented to you in projects on the 28th. On page 28 and 30, you'll be declaring certain unopposed candidates duly elected to office. This comes to you from the clerk's office as part of the 2025 municipal election. On page 31 and 33, you'll be introducing zoning amendment number 1, rezoning approximately 17.1 acres located at 10390 Technology Drive, fronting Wire Road from SFR1 to GPD. This is from Longleaf Engineering and comes to you from the Planning Commission. This is just for introduction tonight. As well as zoning amendment number 2, rezoning approximately 4.8 acres located at 1700 23rd Avenue East from SFR1 to SFR2, and again from Longleaf Engineering, and again just for introduction. On page 35, you'll be authorizing amendment number 4 to fiscal year 2025 general fund budget. This came to you from the Finance Committee. On page 36 and 37, you will be setting March 11th, 2025 as the date for public hearing for those zoning amendments a little further up. Mr. Busby, if you like, I can just kind of start from the top and give a summary.
Please, I just want, I mean, my crude calculation is that wound up being a 17% increase, and that calculation may not be right. There may be some things, and I just want to hear what's involved.
Sure. So our expiring term premium was $1,684,030. Our new premium is $1,959,400 $1,459,433. That is a difference of $275,000. Which $55,000 is for some additional policy coverage that we added. My math of that basically $220,000 increase put us at about 11% increase. Again, I have a degree in English, so I'm probably not the person here who's trusted with math. I did use a fancy online calculator to double
So
check
that,
myself, though.
all right, keep going.
So what we look at for the increases of this is one of the large portions of why we increase our
We've got a 3% asset value.
3% goes up just for everything we had. That was applied to approximately $350 million worth of assets. That wasn't applied to the additional assets. We added approximately $27 million worth of assets. Those were parks, buildings, things we brought online. We also added 69 additional vehicles to coverage. And so
We netted 69 what?
69 additional. Yes, sir. And so all of those additional vehicles, assets, and coverage make up the additional coverage and premium. So looking at it, our rate didn't really change. It's the amount of coverage we got is causing the increase in premium.
Okay, and then you had talked about the coverage for us getting sued was 55 grand, but I thought you mentioned that was down from 85.
So when we first got the quote, when I was given the quote and discussed it with the mayor and was told, yes, proceed, let's put that as part of the big policy, we were quoted 85. When we actually got the official premium, it came in at 55. So we got a pretty good, we got a pretty good discount on that once it got through.
Okay.
Also, I had sent you and Mr. Tyner as chair of finance and insurance litigation, one number for the total premium, and we actually were able to find $20,000 in there that was just an adding error. So that number came
All
down
right,
to.
so the real increase was closer to 11%. When you factor in the new assets covered, we got the 3% asset increase in value, and then you added in the assets added to the policy. That amount that was left over shook out more, not as a rate increase, but a cost increase of additional coverage.
Yes, sir. That is correct.
All right, I'm all right.
And the research I've done, it looks like homeowners, Rick, this is basically our home and auto policy, right? And in Alabama, I mean, that's not apples to apples, but that's the closest. In Alabama, homeowner insurance rates over the last year went up 9% and auto 18%. Getting all of this is a total of 11% increase with that coverage. I think it's pretty good.
I accept that.
Yes,
Okay, thank you, Scott.
yes sir.
Okay, projects, finance, admin, properties, and then council at 6. Monday, police and fire pension board will meet at 9 a.m. Wednesday, historic preservation commission will meet in the council chambers. Anybody else have anything they'd like to bring for the pre-council? Okay. Is motion going to
Second.
executive session? Motion second, Mr. Holmes.
Yes, sir. As your city attorney and an attorney licensed to practice law in the state of Alabama, I can certify that this executive session is to discuss with their attorney the legal ramifications of and legal options for pending litigation, controversies not yet being litigated but imminently likely to be litigated or imminently likely to be litigated if the governmental body pursues a proposed course of action, as well as to discuss securities plans, procedures, assessments, measures, or systems, or the security or safety of persons, structures, facilities, or other infrastructure, including without limitation information concerning critical infrastructure, the public exposure of which could be reasonably expected to be detrimental to public safety or welfare.
Okay, we have a motion second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.